Have you ever looked at your bank account on a Friday and felt that familiar drop in your stomach? That quiet dread arriving before you finish your coffee. Maybe you work hard. Maybe you've always worked hard. Maybe you tell yourself next month will be different. Next month you'll finally get ahead. Maybe you downloaded the budgeting app, color-coded your expenses, told yourself this time was serious. Maybe you lasted 2 weeks before it quietly collapsed. Maybe you've looked at other people and wondered why it seems so effortless for some. Oh, same city, same prices, same world. But somehow they're not drowning. No one ever told you the truth about how the system around you was designed and who it was designed for. That gap is extremely profitable for specific people. This is the story of Raphael, a man who worked every day of his adult life and had nothing to show for it until one conversation changed everything. Stay with me. Rafael Mendes was 29 years old. He drove 6 days a week for a logistics company. His take-home pay, after deductions, was approximately $1,340 a month. His apartment was a single-bedroom unit on the 3rd floor. The window above his sink had a crack sealed with electrical tape. The refrigerator hummed through the night. There was a stack of unopened envelopes on the kitchen counter. He never opened them immediately. He had memorized the feeling of those envelopes without needing to read them. Raphael owed $2,200 on a credit card opened 3 years ago for a car repair. He had paid $65 every month for 36 months. $2,340 total, and somehow still owed $2,200. He had a personal loan of $1,800 taken to cover rent when hours were cut. A buy now, pay later balance of $340 for a phone he needed to keep his job. Monthly expenses consumed $1,190 of his $1,340, which left $150, which was never actually $150 because something always happened. A tire, a co-pay, a birthday. What haunted Raphael most was not the numbers. It was the feeling of motion without progress. He drove hundreds of kilometers a week and never got anywhere. He had one friend he truly talked to. Carlo worked dispatch at the same company. They ate lunch in the parking lot and sometimes spoke about what they'd do if they ever got out. Carlo wanted to go back to school. Raphael wanted to visit his father in another city. Neither spoke about these as real plans, only the way people speak about good weather. He worked and spent and borrowed and worked again. The distance between him and stability never closed. It only opened wider, slowly, like a crack in a wall. He was working hard in a life that was going nowhere. One thought kept returning like a whisper he couldn't ignore. There has to be another way. But what? Total debt, just over $4,500. Monthly income, $1,340. The cycle continued. Spend to survive, borrow to cover the gap, work harder to stay exactly in place. He drove all day, every day, hundreds of kilometers a week. The world moved around him, and the gap between him and any version of stability never seemed to close. He wasn't lazy. He worked hard every single day, but hard work alone wasn't changing anything. And every evening, he still felt like he was living backwards. On a Tuesday in late October, Raphael was in a supermarket parking lot eating a sandwich he had packed from home when his phone buzzed. His account had dropped below zero. He was 29 years old. He had worked without stopping since he was 19, and his bank account was negative $11 on a Tuesday afternoon, with 9 days until payday. He put the sandwich down. He didn't finish it. He stared at the screen for a long time. Something in his chest went very still. Not sadness, not anger. What? Defeat. An older man tapped on the passenger window. Raphael looked up. He recognized him, Arnaldo, from the same building, 3rd floor. They had only ever exchanged nods in the elevator. Arnaldo lowered himself into the passenger seat, set his bags on the floor, and sighed. "You look like a man who just confirmed something he already knew," he said quietly. For reasons he could not explain, Raphael told the truth. All of it. The card, the loan, the overdraft fees. He talked for 10 minutes, while Arnaldo listened without interrupting once. You don't have a spending problem, Arnaldo said. You have a knowledge problem, and that is not your fault. But it is your responsibility. Raphael went still. Arnaldo reached into a grocery bag and pulled out a plain receipt. This is not a receipt, he said. This is a map of decisions someone made for you before you walked in that store. Every product at eye level was placed there by a company that paid for that position. The impulse items at checkout are there because research proved people grab them when their mental energy is low. The minimum payment is calculated specifically, deliberately, to keep you paying forever. A customer who pays off their card is worth almost nothing to them. One who pays minimums forever is worth thousands. Raphael felt something shift behind his eyes. Not anger yet. Something more like vertigo. Like a floor he had always stood on was not as solid as he believed. They need you to feel like the problem is you, Arnaldo said. Because if you ever understood the problem is the design, you change your behavior overnight. And they cannot afford that. First, stop paying for the privilege of having no money. You need a $100 buffer, untouched, invisible to you, that acts as your circuit breaker against overdraft fees. Second, pick your smallest debt and attack it with everything for 30 days. Nothing else. When it is gone, that payment folds into the next. The math is simple. The psychology is powerful. Third, never use credit for anything that isn't food, fuel, or rent, not because credit is evil, but because you don't yet control it. Right now, it controls you. That changes when you have reserves. Arnaldo reached into his jacket and handed Raphael a small card with just a phone number. Call me in 30 days. Tell me the store credit is gone. If it is, I'll teach you the next step. That night, Raphael sat on the edge of his mattress with a piece of paper and wrote down every debt, every balance, every minimum payment he could find. It took 2 hours. By midnight, he had a number he had never fully looked at before. $4,530. Not approximate, exact. He stared at it. Then he wrote beside it, in different ink, $190 first. The first week was not dramatic. He passed the vending machine in the depot and kept walking. He declined when Carla suggested the sit-down place on Thursday. He cooked rice and beans for 4 straight evenings. He transferred $90 toward the store credit on day 3, which left almost nothing. Every hour that week, his mind offered reasons why one small purchase would be fine. Just this once. By day 9, the near failure arrived. A birthday at work, everyone going. A place he knew charged $18 per person. He stood in the corridor looking at the group chat. Shame sitting in his throat. He typed, "Can't make it tonight. Sorry." Then he sat in his car in the dark parking lot for 11 minutes, feeling the loneliness of the decision, the social cost no motivational video ever describes. Then he drove home. He cooked. He transferred another $30, and he told himself out loud in the empty kitchen, I am choosing this. This is not happening to me. I am doing this. On day 21st, something quiet happened. He walked past the checkout impulse items at the supermarket without breaking stride. Not with effort, just without interest. For the first time. He called Arnaldo that evening, not to report, just to say, Day 21. The store credit is gone. I have $12 left. No overdraft, no new debt. And I think something is different. That's not you becoming more disciplined, Arnaldo said. That's you seeing the trap clearly for the first time. When you see the trap, you stop walking into it. That's not willpower, that's education. He had not increased his income by a single dollar. He had simply redirected money that had been leaking through the floor of his budget into fees and interest he had never bothered to calculate. By month 2, the personal loan balance had dropped by $340, more than he had paid toward it in the entire previous year combined. Not from earning more, from bleeding less. He told Carla in the parking lot one afternoon, not to impress her, because she was the only person who would understand the specific weight of what it meant to move a number. She listened without interrupting. Then she asked him to write the numbers on a napkin. The debts, the order, the cascade. She folded it and put it in her pocket. 3 months after the parking lot, Raphael called his father. Not to chat, but to say, "I'm coming to visit. I've set aside the money for the bus." His father went quiet for a long moment. His father said something Raphael hadn't heard in years. "I'm proud of you, son." Raphael stood in his kitchen and felt something he didn't immediately have a word for. It took a moment. Solidity. By month 5, the personal loan was fully paid. The credit card balance had dropped from $2,200 to $1,600 with an accelerated plan Arnaldo had helped him structure. He was no longer feeding the machine. He was no longer paying $34 overdraft fees. No more unplanned purchases. No new debt. He had not earned a single extra dollar. He had simply stopped losing money he had already earned. Raphael's transformation was not dramatic. He still drove the same routes. He still lived in the same apartment. But the distance between him and stability was closing, measurably, every single month. He stood in his kitchen and looked at the crack in the window, still sealed with electrical tape. But he was saving to fix it. Not someday, with a date attached, a real date. He had stopped being used by things he didn't understand. That was the whole of it. That was everything. Not wealth. Wealth. Not luck. Just the end of paying for ignorance he never chose to have. I am not bad with money. I was kept ignorant about it. That ignorance belonged to the system. The decision to stay ignorant, that would belong to me, and I have made my choice. I don't buy things to feel less broke. I don't borrow to feel less behind. My $100 buffer sits untouched. My debts are dying, one by one. This is not a plan anymore. This is who I am. Raphael didn't get a raise. He didn't win anything. He didn't find a secret. He sat in a parking lot and let an older man show him what had always been true, and that changed everything. Here is your challenge. Tonight, not someday. Step 1. Write down every debt you carry. Name, balance, minimum payment, interest, exact numbers. No rounding. No skipping the ones that hurt. Step 2. Find your smallest debt. That is your first target. Not the biggest, not the highest rate. The smallest. Because finishing it gives you the momentum to keep going. Attack it for 30 days. Step 3. Find your leaks. Overdraft fees. Forgotten subscriptions. Checkout impulse buys. Add them up. That is money leaving your life silently, right now, while you watch this video. If Raphael's story landed, if you recognized your own life in any part of it, hit like right now as your first act of accountability. Drop the name of your first debt in the comments. Make it real. The system doesn't need you to be free, but you do. Subscribe. Every week, stories of people who stopped being used by things they didn't understand and started building on their own terms.